Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking a really fascinating and frankly universal struggle straight out of Thomas Alethea's 12 Steps to a Good Life. We're talking about that constant, everyday tug of war between our short term comfort and our long term goals. Look, if you've ever set a big, ambitious goal for yourself only to find you're totally self sabotaging just a few days later, trust me, you are not alone. It's totally normal. It's a core part of the human experience. But today, we're going to learn exactly how to outsmart our absolute worst impulses by following one incredibly simple rule: do not feed the pig.
Here's a quick roadmap for this explainer. First, the willpower illusion, then meeting the pig, the cost of quick rewards, mastering self-discipline, and finally, starving the pig. Let's dive right in.
So let's start with a question I think we can all relate to. Why do we always end up choosing the couch over the gym? Or mindlessly scrolling on our phones instead of writing that report? We all know what we should be doing, but there's this deep, lifelong tension between our immediate desires and our delayed fulfillment. The author actually calls this the perennial struggle. It's this constant, exhausting pull between who we are right now in this moment and who we actually want to become.
Section 1. The willpower illusion.
Society loves to tell us that if we fail at something, well, we just don't have enough willpower. Like it's this magical character trait you're either born with or you're not. But the reality? Willpower isn't some permanent impenetrable shield. It's actually a battery. And it requires real physical energy. Think of it like a muscle. The more you use it to resist temptations all day long, the more fatigued it gets. It's way less effective when you divide it between multiple conflicting goals, and it gets severely weakened by physical and emotional states. I'm talking hunger, anger, fatigue. Simply put, willpower is short-term and it's temporary. Relying on it 100% of the time is just a total recipe for failure.
So, the absolutely crucial question is this. When that willpower battery inevitably drains all the way down to zero at the end of a long, stressful day, who takes over the control panel in your brain? What exact psychological mechanism steps in when you are quite literally too tired to make a good choice? Which brings us to section 2, meet the pig.
Meet the pig. And yes, PIG stands for personal instant gratification. Think of the pig as this cranky, totally unruly trickster kid living inside your head. Its absolute sole aim in life is immediate comfort. It does not care about your health, your career, or your future happiness. No, it only cares about feeling good right now. And whenever you give in to it, you are feeding the pig at the direct, literal expense of your big, long-term goals. It helps to look at the whole cast of characters inside your mind. You've got the rational decision maker, right? That's the smart version of you that carefully plans ahead. But then you have the instant gratification monkey, who is basically a chaotic agent of the pig. This monkey just constantly distracts the decision maker and prefers to dump all the hard work onto future you. But here's the catch. Future you doesn't actually exist. When the deadline arrives, you're just present day you, incredibly stressed out, and that's when the panic monster wakes up, otherwise known as the only thing that can actually force you to write a 5-page paper at 3 a.m. It jolts you into a last-minute frenzy, and honestly, it is an exhausting way to live.
Moving to section 3, the cost of quick rewards.
Look, every action has a payoff. Let's break it down. When you skip the gym, your short-term payoff is immediate physical comfort. The couch feels great. But the long-term harm? Derailed health goals. When you procrastinate on work, your payoff is a temporary escape from the fear of failure. But the long-term harm is absolutely crushing anxiety when that panic monster finally shows up. Eating junk food? That gives you maybe 5 minutes of sensory joy, followed pretty much immediately by an energy crash and a whole lot of regret. The pig gets the short-term payoff, you get stuck with the long-term harm, every single time. So we are ultimately left with a choice between two completely different mindsets. Feeding the pig means prioritizing quick rewards and immediate comfort, which, as we've seen, always comes at a massive long-term expense. Starving the pig, however, means actively practicing delayed gratification, and the source material heavily emphasizes this. The ability to delay gratification is the ultimate sign of a mature outlook. It is quite literally the necessary bridge to long-term success and building a truly good life.
Section 4. Mastering self-discipline. Okay, so if willpower is just a temporary battery that drains,
How on earth do we actually build the discipline we need to resist the pig? The source material turns to a totally timeless piece of wisdom from Aristotle to explain this. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Self-discipline is not some magical genetic trait you're just born with. It's not. It's simply the result of building good habits over time. It's making the right choice so often, so consistently, that it eventually just becomes automatic. But to build those habits, we really have to understand what we're up against. Your unconscious mind, it is an 800-pound gorilla. Just imagine trying to ride on its shoulders. You can consciously decide, hey, I want to go left. But if that 800-pound gorilla wants to go right back towards comfort and old habits, guess what? You are going right. You cannot fight your unconscious mind with brute force or sheer willpower. It won't work. You have to outsmart it. Section 5. Starving the pig. So, how exactly do we outsmart this gorilla and stop feeding our worst impulses? Well, it starts with a surprisingly simple, actionable procedure to just interrupt the unconscious mind. Step 1. Recognize the urge. You have to notice when the pig is demanding that immediate comfort. Step 2. Pause and count to 10. This is absolutely crucial. It gives your rational brain the space it desperately needs to catch up with your emotions. Just take slow, deep breaths. And then step 3, choose the long-term goal. In that brief little window of clarity you just created, you consciously choose to starve the pig. Let's break down some specific tactics you can use to set yourself up for success so you aren't just relying entirely on that easily drained willpower battery. First off, remove temptations entirely. Literally just don't keep junk food in the house, turn off those phone notifications. Second, do the hardest things first, ideally in the morning when your willpower battery is fully charged. Third, use if-then intentions. Literally tell yourself, if I feel too tired to work out, then I will just put on my shoes and stretch. Fourth, remember the acronym HALTS. Try your hardest to avoid major decisions or difficult tasks when you are hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or sick, because your willpower is severely compromised in those states. And finally, my absolute favorite tactic, focus on ridiculously small tasks. And when I say ridiculously small, I mean ridiculously small. Look at this. Day 1, you just do one single stretch. Day 2, drink exactly 1 glass of water. Day 3, read literally just 1 page of that book. Why in the world does this work? Because these goals are so incredibly tiny, they completely bypass the defense mechanisms of that 800-pound gorilla. Your unconscious mind doesn't trigger any fear or procrastination over a single, simple stretch. But once you start, you're in motion, and you'll almost always end up doing more. It effectively trains your brain to enjoy positive change without ever waking up the pig. Ultimately, learning to master yourself brings us to this really heavy-hitting realization, famously quoted in the text, you can suffer the pain of discipline, or you can suffer the pain of regret. Neither path is completely easy, right? The perennial struggle means there is always going to be some friction. But the pain of discipline builds your self-esteem, it achieves your goals, and it leads to genuine, lasting contentment. The pain of regret, that just leaves you empty. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you pondering one final thought. You know exactly how the pig operates now. You know that willpower is just a battery, and that real discipline is just a habit. So, when that inevitable moment of temptation arrives later today, which pain will you choose? Thanks so much for joining me on this journey. Go out there, outsmart that gorilla, and whatever you do, do not feed the pig.